Thanks very much for joining me. Good to see you guys here, and also those joining in on our live stream as well. So it's definitely a first for the metal packaging industry, which is really exciting. It's also going to be available after the show as well for those who haven't been able to join us. Just for those of you who aren't quite well acquainted with the Metal Packager, we're the industry's leading digital resource for the industry with things like podcast, video content, daily news content, social media. So if you want to hear more about us, visit metalpackagers.com. But first off, it's great to see that we've got an illustrious panel here of industry experts with over 50 years experience within the industry. So we're looking forward to delving into some of the pertinent topics within the industry at the moment. But first of all, Raul Martinez, thank you very much for allowing us to conduct this event. And if you can do the introduction, much appreciated.
Thank you. I don't have a mic, but thank you for joining all of you, those watching from abroad. I'm very honored to be invited to this podcast. I want to introduce our panel. We have Davide Padovani, CEO of Steelforce Packaging. We have Mr. Larry Churchwell, President of, thank you. Larry is the President of DRT's Metal Packaging and Precision Division. Ben Joe, Packaging Coating Senior Director of Global Strategic Accounts at PPG. And last but not least, Chris McAlpine, Vice President of Global Solutions for Stolly Machinery. Thank you, and thank you again,
Thank you very
Alex.
much.
Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Excellent, guys. So, first off, I think it's best to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. I know this industry has seen considerable solid growth for the last 10 to 15 years, not least the last few years due to the ongoing sustainability message, anti-plastic sentiment, COVID. Kind of been the perfect storm for aggressive growth. But second half of last year, and particularly into this year, we've seen certainly a dip in the market, which is perhaps a cause for concern, or will be interesting to hear what the panelists think. So, Chris, I'd like to start with you. Certainly when I was at IMDA back in September of last year, Gus Reel did a presentation on kind of the where the market is, and he was very bullish in terms of where the market will be, and the Stolly guys who come up with the algorithms, etc., seem to be pretty keen on the fact that this industry should see solid growth moving forward. So, are Stolly and yourself still as bullish, or as the market conditions, has it been a cause for concern, and particularly how quickly the market has dipped?
Yeah, I think we're still long-term very bullish, but I think we're a little, taken aback by how long it's taking to kind of ramp itself back up. We had a lot of growth in North America in particular, a lot of volume increase, probably more than 20 to 30 billion cans capacity added. And I think what was happening during the pandemic is you had can markets that weren't as solid that were shipping cans into the U.S. And I think my concern was always what's going to happen once the U.S. is able to take care of itself and we get the capacity up and running. That left those other markets that were shipping cans in, it was always going to be soft after. And I think in particular Brazil got hit with that, with a lot of lines that are now curtailed, and we saw cans coming in from Middle East and Southeast Asia. So that volume was always going to die off in other markets. So I think we're waiting for some of that to kind of fill itself back in. And it's taking a little bit longer than we had hoped, but long term I think there's still great things in the metal packaging sector that were long term going to be really good for us in the industry.
Was the shrinkage unexpected, would you say?
I think with how fast things were growing, I think the shrinkage it wasn't a complete shock, but I just think the way that coming out of COVID was handled in different regions might have been a bit of a surprise. I think you look at China in particular, there was they didn't handle coming out of COVID well, and that affected all sectors of their economy. So I think that hurt. And throughout North America and the rest of the regions, I think there were some things that the growth was so fast, we overshot a little bit, and now we're kind of just reallocating.
Yeah. Larry, would you certainly subscribe to that in terms of it's almost like the market is the can making market is taking stock?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We saw the same thing.
think that there is a little bit of an undercurrent of growth, even though it's probably a little lower than what was expected maybe back in 1819, but you had this huge swell during COVID, and then to come down from that's very painful. Hard side now, I think we started feeling it a lot sooner than everywhere else, but there's a lot of capacity that's been built in all of the regions and too quickly. So there's capacity coming out of the markets, but there are still some good news opportunities.
Great. Your mic's not working.
Okay, perfect.
There we go. We all okay there? So yeah, Larry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, perhaps we'll start that
microphone.
We'll start that segment again. So I mean, would you subscribe to Chris's viewpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris hit the nail on the head. We saw very similar things. I think on being heavy on the parts side early on, we felt it right away. But coming out of Q4 of 22. But agree that we had a lot of opportunity to place capacity in the marketplace, but then it came crashing down after that. But there is still an undercurrent of growth, I think, globally, and there are some pockets that are still growing, maybe off of a base of 18, 19, 20, and then, but, coming off of that big roller coaster ride of 22, 23, or 21, 22 is difficult, right? I think it's difficult on everybody that's here at this conference. So absolutely, I think we're 100% aligned on that.
And yeah, David, would you subscribe to that, particularly from a raw materials standpoint? What are the vibes you're getting from your customers?
Well, I would say that, does it work?
Yeah.
I would say that I do subscribe it, but from a units and metal packaging growth point of view, I would also say that I would add on that a lot of the stall versus growth that we have experienced, in a way, growth and then stall in between after COVID years, is also being driven drastically by the attitude towards inventory creation. I don't believe there was a huge, massive growth before, nor a massive stall after. It's just the sentiment was completely opposite, while committing to production and demand in a certain way. And if you probably look at it from an average point of view, I would definitely say long run we are still positive and looking at the growth. But those deviations and that kind of volatility is mainly due to the price effect and to the attitude towards looking at the future consumption of our customers in a more pessimistic or optimistic way. That's, I would say, a bottom line that I would I would attribute to a kind of a big importance to the matter.
And Ben, from a packaging coating side, do you subscribe to the view that perhaps the industry's been a little bit greedy in the last 15 years, that we've seen that kind of growth, and that it's almost as if good things can't last forever?
Yeah, I would say, like the rest of the panelists, we are also very optimistic about this industry. I think structurally you have to look at, the sustainability story. It's the metal can still has a phenomenal story to tell, and with the world changing and people becoming more and more conscientious, I think you have to feel pretty good about, the prospects of the growth of the metal can. That being said, I think, as Chris mentioned, over the past couple of years, probably the industry overshot a little bit. You had the COVID spike, and the industry probably overshot a little bit, and we're feeling the pains of that, having additional capacity. But also, even though the can has a great story, in the end, we're all consumers, right? And speaking personally, 3 years ago, I never thought about the price of a 6-pack of soda or beer, right? But now, you go to the grocery store and it kind of makes you think twice for a second, right? So naturally, with all that inflation that most places in the world have experienced a good bit of inflation over the last few years, that is also, you have to imagine, has tempered down demand, right? And then upstream for us, as can makers, have additional capacity, maybe overshot a little bit. It takes time to kind of rebalance the industry.
Yeah.
I think we experienced from our customers last year, even early on, a lot of them working off inventory from 2022, and working it off for, months.
Yeah.
So I think we're right now starting to come out of it, and it feels like that we're starting to reach a bit of a place where, the supply and demand is balanced a little bit better.
Before I open this up to the floor, I'll just, this is probably a general question to the panel. Do you think we kind of, as an industry, overplay the sustainability message? That, just playing devil's advocate here, as is the want of myself, but do you think we kind of overplay the sustainability message in terms of people will do the sustainable option, but if it starts affecting their pocket, they'll go for the frugal option as opposed to the sustainable option? So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. So whoever's got a particular view on that, feel free to answer.
Well, personally, I don't think we kind of overshot on it. I think that's still a good argument. And personally, I see it still underestimated as a factor while promoting ourselves. But there's just a limit, right? There's price sensitiveness is always there. And we have to be really aware of what our final brands and consumers are going to be thinking when they make purchase decisions. And there's got to be a balance. So you have to use it, but it has to be all measured with your value proposal in a way that is consistent for the demand to absorb it.
Anyone else before I open up to the floor there?
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm not sure that we overplayed the message or overplayed the sustainability. I'm not sure that the consumers are as educated maybe as what they need to be, especially in the U.S. and other regions. I mean, we have very good recycling rates in Europe because of return schemes that are out there, but I'm not sure that the consumers are quite as educated as what this industry needs. And many times when celebrities come out and promote metal package, they get attacked, and they get attacked by other groups that are trying to protect their turf on this. But with the inflation, just like Ben said, that the consumer has a choice, and there are a lot of different formats, and not all those formats are in metal packaging. And so consumer is going to make the best decision for them financially, more so than the sustainability. So with the inflation that we've had, and with metal prices doing what they're doing in the last week, there's going to be more headwinds coming if those are sustained.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just want to reiterate, I actually think we probably underplay the story about sustainability a little bit. Both things can be true. The consumer is obviously still making choices based on financials, and are because of inflation pinch. It's not always easy to make the sustainable choice to go with metal packaging. But I do think there's just a lot of growth in awareness that still needs to take place. We're aware of a McKinsey study that was done recently about the different types of packaging that are used in the world today, which are perceived to be the most sustainable. And metal packaging, surprisingly, from a perception standpoint, still has a long way to go. So I would say, in a lot of cases, we have work to do to play the message even louder.
Just would like to open this up to the floor. Has anyone got any pertinent views about this topic? I know it's certainly been a topic that's been on everyone's lips, certainly walking the floor the past couple of days. So is there any views from the audience here? Everyone's always too polite at this point. There's a question here from Elaine. Yeah. I'll take the mic. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Anna Kenya from Eastman. One question I may ask, for the panel here is, we hear a lot about the material of concerns, especially coming from Europe, about chromium replacement, chromium-free on the metal, conversion of BPA. So what the view? Because certain regions go faster than others. We in Latin America. How do you see that coming up? In the next few months, few years, maybe on the total conversion, because we're still pretty low in this region on BPNI.
Who wants to address it?
Who would like to tackle that?
I mean, I can take it. Go ahead.
I believe there is certainly an order by which some countries are coming up with this kind of trends a little bit earlier than others. And eventually what we have seen with these changes is that the industry at a certain point kind of finds a new standard, and it can take years to get to that point. What I believe we're truly missing on that front is kind of a homogeneity in regulation aspects. that, in this kind of environment are making kind of lack of central thinking on what's the way metal packaging has to be produced. It kind of develops different convenience in certain regions rather than others, right? And that's where you have longer time for adjusting to certain new standards. Personal, I don't know if Ben, you have to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, so we sell coatings, and obviously this is a really, really hot topic, right? If not the hottest topic going right now. It's hard to say, to project in time how fast regulations will come. Clearly in Europe, we're on the precipice of the BPA conversion. And how fast that will move to other regions is hard to say. I think we believe for sure it's coming, right, and sooner than later. So I think the important thing for the industry is to be ready. We at PPG have certainly taken the steps that, to try to get ahead of these regulations, not just BPA, but for us, bisphenols in general. There are other materials of concern that it's become part of daily life in the business. So we kind of have a joke where pretty soon we're going to be making coatings out of water only, and even that's toxic at very, very high levels, right? So it is one of the biggest topics and biggest challenges. That we can't project how fast it's going to be, but we do know that we have to be ready, and I think the industry is that's going to be who can do that the best is going to be in good shape.
I'd just like to move things on a fraction here. We've just discussed a few trends within the marketplace, so that's probably a nice place to move on. I know we've kind of started almost on a negative front, which I know there's certainly a lot of opportunities and benefits about this wonderful industry. So, Larry, I know certainly you've got DRT. You've got fingers in many pies, so to speak, and you've been very active in terms of exploiting the trends within the industry. So, I'd like to begin with you, please.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, kind of, there's a connection with some of the regulation discussions that we're talking about in the single-use plastics, and Europe is active in that area, and there's a roadmap to sort of level that playing field for metal packaging as it relates to single-use plastic. So we're engaged in our innovation piece of our business that we're restarting that innovation at DRT. DRT was founded on innovation with the integral rivet and helping jumpstart this easy open-end industry. And so we're getting back to our roots there. And our relationship and our partnership with Meadow, which is trying to take the aluminum can into personal care and household products. And so we are taking those trends of towards sustainability and trying to educate a new industry and help her promote that can and promote the metal package into new markets, and then try to encourage the expansion, and so that we're not just tied into food and beverage as an industry, and that we can be successful in new areas.
Would you say the industry as a whole has kind of been dominated by the sexy kind of two-piece beverage can, and perhaps the food care market, personal care market has kind of been neglected over the past perhaps 10 to 15 years? So now it's opportunity, as the market has slowed down, to perhaps look at new avenues and new opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it's a highly engineered package, right? There's a lot of standardization globally. There's a lot of opportunity for decoration. With the digital decoration, it gives it a unique spin on the package type, and those are things that you really can't do right now with other packages that are out there. So I think that it's a shrewd idea to go and take that highly engineered can, and then we're designing specialty ends to go with it.
Excellent. And to pass this on to Chris, do you share those sentiments and about sort of similar trends within the marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some opportunity now to look at. You brought up aerosol, for example, and we're doing some things with D&I with aerosol rather than monoblock and aluminum. So I think there's opportunities to save money, save resources. There's also a trend now to look at a single alloy end and can, so that you can get back into a fully recycled package, which truly we can't claim right now. So I mean, if we're going to drive down that sustainability road, I think we should really double down on the engineering and the messaging to get out there and make sure that we're staying ahead of those trends, and really kind of get the consumer up to understanding all the engineering and the the really detailed engineering that goes into this package and why it is superior to other packs.
Yeah. Do you also, because I was at funny enough, for another industry, I was at a logistics show, and there was a guy from Can Water there, so it was kind of by accident, and one of the questions someone in the audience asked, no knowledge of can making business, metal packaging at all, remarked about the whole sustainability message, yet you're not, this is not to pick on Can Water for sure, but mentioning the fact that the end is obviously plastic, so the whole
Right.
secondary packaging element, and we're trying to kind of fly the flag of metal packaging, sustainability, and then you've kind of got that secondary packaging material. So do you think this industry needs to be perhaps a little bit more forward thinking, and it's about the whole circular approach in terms of sustainability and metal packaging?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of things that we should be doing and can be doing, and right now, I think is the time to be doing it. You know, if there's R&D budgets or anything out there, I think putting it towards sustainability is really, you know, going to do our industry well for the next couple of decades. But we need to start it now and work on those problems, because you're exactly right. You have this little plastic piece on a metal can that's so sustainable, so it's like, okay, we can do better. I
Absolutely,
mean, not
I
that there's
think
any
that's-
problem with that, but it's, you know, it's solving a problem, but there's, you know, looking at the entire pack, I think, is important.
Yeah, and I think all of us here on the panel, we've been at shows over the last few years, and you're almost talking to each other about how we're doing a good job and patting ourselves on the back, and need to put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer, really. But that's my take, and I'm not here to have my opinion, so apologies here. But Davide, I know you were nodding your head there. So what's your take on those statements made there, and also potentially trends that we're seeing, particularly on the raw material side?
I do believe there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think that if I have to pick one of the aspects we as an industry should be focusing on, of course the improvement in certain processes, and even there's a very big distinction that's got to be made between the aluminum and the steel industry. But I would probably go overall as on the education point Larry made before. I think if we stopped the status at which we are in terms of circularity, recyclability, and all of these aspects that our industry features, and just focus on educating our consumers about what we already have, that would already generate a big impact in terms of perception. Yeah, because in the end, when you want to be growing, you need to increase your bottom line, and that perception is the one driver you got to be focusing on. From a process instead point of view, aluminum is way closer to that 100% recycling footprint that we were talking about. There's even the mindset of can manufacturers is converging towards the point where alloy optimization and all of these understanding of the raw material processes are going in a direction where this is going to happen in a short period of time. On the steel side, we're still a little bit lost. The level of transparency can manufacturers have on the process, on the origins, on how the emission flow happens from point 1 till point Z is not so clear. So there's maybe a little bit more of room to go there. and on the steel side, there's also the emission point of view, which is not only about circularity and recycling rates, but also about how much is it really costing from a CO2 point of view to make the steel in the first place, right? Ours is an industry still relying 100% on blast furnaces. We cannot run electric arc furnaces in our industry, so that makes a big difference, right, in comparison to aluminum.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Ben, some of the challenges and trends that you're seeing, particularly obviously in the packaging coating side, but also for the South American market specifically as well, seeing as we are in Argentina. So just your take on things there.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned the inflation piece, certainly. I think, the industry, and not just this industry, but I think, many industries, obviously, coming out of COVID were, changed forever. There's a much higher premium placed on supply security, supply assurance, and we've certainly seen that. And I think, our customers, ourselves, we've had to evolve to make sure that we've got redundancy of operations, redundancy of manufacturing to be able to, withstand some volatility or fluctuations in demand. So I think that things like that have become, in our conversations with our customers and I think with our suppliers, a lot more important, right, and a lot more visible. So that's the big thing. And as far as trends, as far as innovation and things, David brings up a great point that our industry is relying on these blast furnaces. They're heavily energy intensive, so we're looking at ways of trying to reduce the energy spend of our customers through different types of coatings, different cure profiles, and things like that. So I think those are going to be really important things as we go forward.
Just before we move this on to, we've certainly got quite a few topics here to cover, but just before we move on, any comment from the audience here about sort of challenges, trends that they're seeing within the industry? Just before we move on, if there's any comment here? No, I think we're all good. Okay, so I just want to now move on. We've kind of covered obviously the issues and challenges and trends, but now I just want to kind of be a little bit more specific. You only have to look around the room at can making trade shows. The audiences and the delegates are of a particular vintage, so to speak, saying that in the nicest possible way. I've certainly seen, I think, half a dozen guys saying that they're retiring in the next year to 18 months here, and it's a big, it seems to be a big challenge for the industry about the next generation. And my take is that when people retire, unless they're asked, they tend to take that knowledge with them. So that is a potential brain drain for the industry. And also we see with young people these days, they tend to move on. Like my father's generation, he only had 2 jobs in his life, whereas now young people seem to move on every 2, 3, 4 years. So you train them up, move on. Seems to be a big challenge. So how are you guys tackling that challenge, and is it something that this industry needs to be mindful of? Ben, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do. So I'd answer that in a couple ways. One is, for PPG, we do recognize that in the industry, you mentioned, it's an industry that's poised for a lot of turnover, and that's certainly true from our customer perspective. So we've invested heavily in our technical service support, really beefing up the expertise that we have to offer to our customers at their plants. So, I think our tech service team's got over 800 years of experience in the industry, which is a great resource to offer to customers. When it comes to PPG itself, I think, like any large company, we've got a lot of investment in terms of mentorship opportunities, making sure that we're engaging the younger generation. The younger generation isn't just about work, right? You have to have a strong mission. You have to have a strong purpose. PPG, our mission is to protect and beautify. I think if you ask any PPG employee, they could probably recite that for you. So I think things like that are very important as we move forward. And then, with the cans, I don't remember who said it, engaging the younger generation and making sure they know how cool of a package the can is. Before I joined, I never thought of a can for 1 second, right? But it's a highly engineered, highly technological piece of, packaging, and people don't realize that. They think something we should sell more.
Do you think the whole influencer type thing? I know we were talking, the PPG guys last night, we were talking about, I know Ricky Gervais has invested in a can water company, and Jason Momoa as well is quite proactive on the front for balls. So is that something that maybe this industry can tap into as a result?
Yeah, I don't know what you guys. I would certainly think so. Absolutely, yeah. If we could get more exposure in that way, that is what kind of drives traffic, drives success these days in our world, right? So absolutely, I think that would be great.
Absolutely. And Chris, I know Stolly have certainly got a lot of experience at their disposal. Yeah. I know often at the bar late at night, it seems to be Stolly guys exchanging war stories, etc., about the industry. So has that been a particular challenge for you guys as a company about how you're replacing that knowledge bank and where the next generation is going to come from?
Yeah, I think, if I look around the company, we've got a lot of really bright engineers, a lot of really bright product and production guys. I see part of the challenge is taking that very specific knowledge and turning it into a wider industry view, and even on the sales team. Hey, I'm the second youngest on our sales team, and I just turned 50 last year. So there's a gap there. We definitely need to figure out how to take those young, bright minds and have them be the mouthpiece to the industry, and like you said, reciting the mission and being able to do that to a wider audience, because I think that's really what's going to take it into the, future decades, is those young, bright minds being the sales force behind not just, the machinery, but the package itself and the message to their friends and all those people that do influence, and kind of getting the word out and it becoming, a cooler thing to do.
Larry, I know the fact that we're talking about it now, recruitment, kind of, you need to be looking 10, 20 years down the line. So the fact that we're still having discussions about being a mature marketplace, a mature industry, is that a concern, and how do we address that, and how are DRT looking to tackle those issues?
Yeah, it's exactly what Chris said. I mean, once you do attract these young people and get them in, you got to retain them. You got to keep them engaged, and you've got to keep them bought into the process, and then continue. Like DRT is 75 years old this year, since Ernie started the company, and there's a lot of tool makers that we have in the organization that were there from the very beginning as 20-year-old apprentices that came through, and they're starting to retire. And so we're taking that know-how that these craftsmen and that these tool makers that have had great careers, 40-year plus careers, and we've got to take that knowledge and we got to translate that into automation, right? And so it's not meant to be, we talk about this at our site in Dayton, and it's not meant to replace jobs. It's meant to be able to keep going forward and to be able to keep the quality, keep the needs of the industry, because you talk about how cool the can is. Like, it takes a lot of engineering to create that can and that end at those speeds, and to be able to keep that spoilage rates down so that it's a profitable opportunity for the industry. So we're trying to not only invest in young people, but different skill sets in programming and manufacturing engineering, and bringing that in with the automation, with the trigonometry that it takes to be able to build these parts. And so on the same side of that, as redesigning these things, and then we've got a lot of really capable technical people that travel all over the world and that are in our facilities, that we have to bring young people into that and teach them the history, but also you got to know the history so that you're not doomed to repeat it, and that you can continue to move the industry forward.
Yeah.